Nintendo's on fire right now, selling a whole bunch of Switches. But like I predicted a little while ago, 2018 has been a little bit of a dry spell for large releases from them. And one of the big things that happened is that, well, we really didn't see a lot of third-party releases come out on the Switch. But could that change? And what games do you want to see? Well, I asked you on Twitter, and here's what you had to say. On Twitter, I set up a poll for 4 games that you wanted to see come to the Switch. The only game I didn't include that I thought could have been on the list was Overwatch, but I really believe that Blizzard has already stated the fact that they don't really want to bring Overwatch to the Switch, because if they did, the game wouldn't run that well. All the other games, though, have some kind of quality that could work on the Switch, so maybe they have a better chance. Regardless, though, these are the games I set up: Grand Theft Auto 5, Fortnite, Red Dead Redemption 2, and PUBG. Over 600 of you voted, and the top one was, of course, Grand Theft Auto 5. Grand Theft Auto 5 consistently has a bunch of cool game modes being added for free online that make the game just really valuable and fun to play, and people still enjoy playing it a heck of a lot. Next up was Red Dead Redemption 2, and obviously that game was going to be there because it's sort of the spiritual successor to the whole online world that they've made with Grand Theft Auto 5, and then Fortnite came in third place. Unsurprisingly, PUBG was all the way at the bottom. But here's the kind of interesting position that I'm in right now. Fortnite didn't get as much of a vote as I thought it would have, and I think there's a reason why. Fortnite got popular really fast. But Grand Theft Auto 5 has been around for a number of years and still manages to keep a healthy audience around. And I think there's a reason. Grand Theft Auto 5 has tons and tons of different game modes. But when it comes to Fortnite, a lot of people aren't really playing the original game of Fortnite, they're just playing the Battle Royale free mode, and that game might be very popular now, but it might not stay popular forever. And maybe that's the reason why folks are starting to get a little bit Fortnite burnt out, because it essentially just absorbed everybody's attention all of a sudden, and maybe that's something that won't hold. Not too long ago, everyone was talking about PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, and now it didn't even get 5% of the vote on here. We had over 600 people vote, and all these people that pay attention to Re-Res TV are pretty much gamers. So to see them not really care about that game when it was so popular not that long ago is kind of shocking. Now, of the games I listed on the poll, PUBG is the most unlikely to come to the Switch. Look, they just have an engine that doesn't work very well, and it is a struggle to run on most computers and on most consoles. And although there is a mobile version of PUBG, it's not the same game. It's kind of a different engine altogether, and a different team makes it. And if they were to take that version and bring it to the Switch, maybe that would work, but the original one that everyone really likes to play, I don't think you're gonna see that anywhere else. When it comes to Red Dead Redemption 2, that game probably requires a lot more than what the Switch is capable of putting out, so I don't think that's going to happen as well. But when it comes to Grand Theft Auto 5 and Fortnite, those games are far more likely. Grand Theft Auto 5 came out originally on the PlayStation 3 and the 360, and that's not the version they need to bring to the Switch. The one they need to bring is the most current version, and that one probably has a better chance of working, but boy, it would not run at the best frame rate. As it currently stands, the version that's on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One runs at about 30 frames per second, and to see that frame rate dip even lower for the Switch, unless they did some pretty cool programming magic, I think it would be a little bit too disastrous and folks really wouldn't enjoy playing it. And let's not even take into consideration that Nintendo still hasn't figured out their online structure yet. Even though they have announced some stuff that they're going to be doing in the next couple of months, well, online on the Switch still doesn't have voice over IP. As far as I can tell, the only way to talk to people while playing a game is to use a cell phone app, and then that makes things a lot more difficult. If they can't make the same experience for Grand Theft Auto 5 just work as easy as you play it on other systems, then maybe Rockstar really doesn't want to bring it over for that reason. When it comes to Fortnite, well, Fortnite is available on mobile phones to play, and that version would most likely be the thing they bring over to the Switch. Unless they wanted to bring over the console version, which they could probably do as well, because, hey, they are using a pretty easy-to-modify engine, and as we all know, Unreal does work on the Switch, so that's something that I think could likely happen. But when I created this poll, a lot of you had some interesting things to say, so let's take a look at those things. Art replied, GTA 5 just seems like common sense. It's basically millions of dollars assured for Rockstar if they do. Now, I agree with what Art says because honestly, I think a lot of people would love to see GTA 5 portable. Even if the game didn't work online all that well, just having the regular old Grand Theft Auto experience in a portable form factor, that'd be pretty awesome. I think a lot of people would like that. And even though maybe the online wouldn't be the best in the world, even having a half-broken online experience would still be pretty good. GameSack replied, already have GTA 5 on the more powerful PlayStation 4. Don't need a weaker version of that or Red Dead Redemption 2. Don't care about the other games, so none. Now, I understand what GameSack's trying to say, and I don't think he's wrong. There's going to be a lot of people out there that already have GTA 5, Fortnite, or any of these other games you mentioned on other platforms. And if there's a dumbed-down version on the Switch, or at least one that doesn't run nearly as well as other platforms, it doesn't matter if it's portable or not, people are just not going to enjoy the experience. And I think Doom is a great example. Doom is a game that they brought to the Nintendo Switch, and it did run pretty easily good. I mean, it was surprisingly good for a portable game. But it still wasn't as good as the other versions that were released on other platforms, especially if you were to play that game on PC, because at a really high frame rate, Doom is just so much more interesting to play. But that's one of the things about the Switch. It's not really sure what it wants to be yet. Is it a portable system, or is it a home system, or is it both? And that's something that I think developers and gamers seriously don't understand right now about the console, because Nintendo isn't sure right now either. Boyd1981 replied, GTA 5 would be quite some feat, given it's up to 73 gigabytes on Xbox One now. I'm guessing textures and sound quality would take a hit to fit on the 32 gigabyte game card, with the 64 gigabyte game cards delayed until next year. I'd rather see something in the style of Chinatown Wars. Now, Boyd raises a really good point about GTA 5. That game is pretty big, and the Switch just doesn't have enough space. This is something I've mentioned in the past, and a lot of Nintendo fans really seem to be angry about this, but folks, you gotta understand, the Switch is a portable system, so of course, it's not gonna have the most space available on it. And even though I think Nintendo could have added a little bit more flash memory at the very beginning of things, they didn't. So now the system is gonna struggle to get larger third-party games released on it that other systems can run pretty effortlessly. Now, this is an interesting point when it comes to GTA 5, because the game would probably have to be knocked down a little bit to run on the Switch. So maybe the textures could take a hit, maybe some of the sound quality could be compressed a little bit more. But at the end of the day, the game is always going to keep growing because they keep adding things to it online. And the more they do that, the bigger the file size gets. And that's something that I think a lot of developers out there are having struggles with when it comes to releasing their games on the Switch. And when it comes to GTA 5, I think that's one of the big reasons why we haven't seen that game released on the platform yet. Chris replied, I want to see GTA 4 and Red Dead 1, to be honest. Now, Chris has a really interesting idea here. GTA 4 and Red Dead Redemption 1 are really cool games, and you know what? I think they would be really fun portable. They have really cool online aspects to them, and I think maybe on the Switch they would run really good. In fact, on the Switch, they would probably run better than they did on the original releases on the original platforms they came out on. Maybe Chris is on to something here. If Rockstar really wanted to kind of test the waters with the Nintendo Switch, maybe this year they release those older games on that platform. The interesting thing about the Nintendo Switch is that it's a console unlike anything else we've ever got before. It really is trying to be the best of both worlds, and although it struggles at one or the other, it kind of does enough to work. We've seen a lot of really interesting indie games get announced and released onto the Switch that otherwise became more popular on that platform than they have on anything else. And that tells me that the people that bought the Switch are willing to buy a lot of games right now, and they're just hungry for more. At this E3, Nintendo is surely going to announce a bunch of new games, and maybe they get released at the end of 2018 or even next year. But this poll was designed specifically to showcase that there are games that exist right now that Nintendo could get on their platform that would do very, very well. And maybe their online infrastructure isn't set up in a way to support them right now, but in the future, we might see them arrive. And who knows, maybe the next really big game will be exclusive to the Nintendo Switch. But as it stands right now, the only things they have are first-party Nintendo releases, and they need to work a lot harder on getting those third-party releases coming to the Switch.